Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Robert Lominack. I'm chairman of the School Board of Commissioners. And I really deeply appreciate y'all being here on a kind of drizzly Thursday, August night, 4 days before school starts. And if it appears I can't see you, I can't. Turns out this light's really bright. But I really do appreciate y'all being here. And I'll be brief because I know we're here to hear from and meet Dr. Walker. I learned on Monday that if you want to speak in front of a group of people and then be immediately forgotten, you speak right after the Richland One live jazz band and right before Dr. Walker. And I did that. People say that the most important decision that a school board makes is selecting a superintendent. And I agree with that. And as it turns out, that process is really grueling, as it should be. It's really hard work, and if it's easy, you're probably not doing it right. I am very, very proud of our school board, not only in the decision we reached, but the way we got there. To a person, every commissioner brought their A game to every meeting as part of that process. We spent a lot of hours together, and everyone genuinely gave it their all. And I'm really proud of not only the result, but how we got there. And so I want to thank our School Board of Commissioners. I know we have a couple folks here. I saw Commissioner Hersey, Commissioner Devine, and there might be some others on the way, but I really want to thank the board for taking on that process in a way that we can be very proud of. And not only was it the most important decision that a school board makes, but we came to our decision unanimously. So I want to repeat that. One of the hardest decisions a school board can make, we got there as a group with a 7-0 vote, and we voted to select Dr. Todd Walker as the right superintendent for this district. Now, here's the thing. Just because it was unanimous doesn't necessarily by itself mean that it was right. We could have all been wrong. I am happy to report to you all, we got it right. I said this on Monday, and I can say it again having met with him today, that each week I meet with Dr. Walker, I get more excited. Each week after meeting with him and hearing more about his vision and more about how he wants to get there, I get more enthused. And I'm in danger now of just turning into Dr. Walker's hype man. I might just quit my job and go around and be his introducer. But in short, what I can say, and I'm genuinely thankful and happy that I've gotten to meet with Dr. Walker more than most people in Columbia so far. I'm not sure he shares the same sentiments about his meetings with me, but he is the real deal. And I think that this board got it right. We selected the right person at the right time to take this district in the right direction. I could not be prouder of this school board, and I couldn't be more optimistic and excited about the future in Richland One. So, with that being said, I'd like to introduce to you all Richland One's Superintendent, Dr. Todd Walker.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you to our chair and to our board. I truly believe that success and significance is a collective endeavor. And so the board, in every way, is a co-laborer with me, the Board of Commissioners. And so thank you to each of you for your presence here, all of you that were able to be here. And want to extend greetings and thanks to all of you who are here, and to those who are watching via live stream, and to those who will watch the recorded edition. I want to begin with a preface by saying that 26 years ago today, I made the second best decision of my life. The first decision of my life was a decision for faith, and it's a personal decision for me. The second best decision I made was to marry Dr. Kenyatta Nicole Walker. And 26 years ago today, she said yes, y'all, okay? And so I would not be here, would not be able to do the work that I do without her support and her encouragement. And I recognize that, and I pray that my tenure here is long and effective, but long after my tenure here, it's gonna be me in my bay. So I have a token of appreciation for her, lest she think that I forgot that today was our anniversary, so you can come on out. And yeah, so come on up, come on up, come on up. She like, you doing too much, and I am. I'm absolutely doing too much. That's what you're supposed to do. So come on now, give her a big round of applause. All right, so, okay, bring her into the light, they said, okay. Don't keep her in the dark, all right. So this is her, y'all. This is my boo thing. And here are your flowers. Happy anniversary. Okay. So we are rising together. We are rising together. I said and shared in multiple formats as I was both in the interview process and since I've been here in Columbia, that I believe that everything rises and falls on leadership. We've all heard the phrase that a rising tide lifts all boats. And I believe in the deepest fiber of myself that rising tide is leadership. But leaders don't lead alone, and leaders don't lead in isolation. Leadership, we understand as a collective endeavor, one that is shared amongst multiple stakeholders, and when done well, when done most effective, it's done as a team. I acknowledge the board. Here are their wonderful pictures. This work will not be done without the board and myself working together in a collective fashion, extending then to my cabinet and to the executive leadership team and to all of our leaders throughout the system. It takes a team of folks working together to do this well. I believe that the place of agreement is the place of power. And that if we want to be effective with our students, the best thing that we can show them is that we as adults are in agreement. And understand, my wife and I raised two strong-willed children. One, my daughter is here today. But both of them were strong-willed, because my wife and I are strong-willed. But what we discovered is that we might disagree in the kitchen or in the bedroom, but we had to come out as a unified front. And when we did that, it made all the difference with the effectiveness of our parenting. And so I believe that similar to that, as a system, as system leaders, we have to agree. We might not always agree on everything, but we have to come to consensus, come to agreement, and then lead from that place, and that place will give us a platform of power. So a little bit about our district. Things that you probably already know. Richland One is a diverse district with both progress and with pressing challenges. The 90-day plan that I'm laying out is all about building a shared understanding of what our priorities will be and a vision for laying the groundwork for how we will build lasting district-wide improvement. And the key to me is lasting. We want to build something that lasts and that has effectiveness past any of our tenures in our current roles. So there are a few key questions that I think will be important for us as we think about what it means to have a 90-day process that creates a platform for this significant lasting change that we endeavor to engage in. The first question that I think we need to be thinking about is, how does the board measure success, and how does the community measure success? The second question is, how clear and coherent are all of the district stakeholders about realizing our vision? So meaning coherence is shared meaning and shared understanding. So do we have a shared meaning and a shared understanding about what it would mean for us to be successful? And so one of the things that we're going to be focusing on in our 90-day plan is making sure that not only do we all want to be successful, but that we have a shared understanding of what success looks like so that we can move towards it in a collective fashion. We have to be thinking about what are the challenges that we're going to face and that will need to be addressed to actualize these goals, both in the short term and in the long term. And finally, we'll want to make sure that we are thinking about, do all of the stakeholders in the district share in the district's path forward? So all means all. All is everyone to the exclusion of no one. And so we need to make sure that whether we're on the east side or the west side or the north or the south, anywhere in our district, from Lower Richland to Columbia High School to Dreer to AC Flora to Eau Claire to all of the clusters that exist in our system, do all of the stakeholders in each of those places share in the path forward? These are critical questions. We know our vision and our mission statements, that we want to ensure that all learners are able to achieve their potential in a safe, caring, and academically challenged and diverse learning environment. And we are transforming lives and empowering students to achieve their potential and their dreams. So how do we do that? The 90-day purpose that we have settled on is that we want to gain clarity about what we are solving for. We want to gain clarity about what we are solving for. I love this quote from Albert Einstein. He says that in this way, the framing of a problem is often more important than the solution. And the reason he says that is because the way that we frame a problem determines the type of solutions that we find. So what are we solving for? Kind of interesting, this book, Leadership and Self-Deception, has an anecdotal story in it that talks about a hospital around the early 1900s that was dealing with different success rates as it related to maternal mortality. And the two wards in the hospital had significantly different mortality rates for mothers after giving birth. In one section of the hospital, the mortality rate for mothers was close to zero. Mothers after giving birth were, for the most part, all having successful postpartum experiences and able to leave the hospital without any incident. In another section of the hospital, the mortality rate for mothers was around 10%. And so why the difference in the outcomes? And so they were searching and looking and saying, why in same hospital, two different wards, are we seeing different success rates? And so they began to do studies and to try to understand what was happening. And what they discovered was that, one, in the section of the hospital where the mortality rate was close to zero, there were nurses that were working there. And in the area where the mortality rate was higher, there were physicians working there. And they said, well, that doesn't seem to be significant. are the nurses and the physicians doing something different? And so they began to do a little bit more investigation and interrogation of what might be going on. And what they discovered was that in the area where the doctors were working, the doctors were going and also working with cadavers. And so they were going and they were working with these cadavers. And this was before the discovery of germ theory. So they did not know that working with cadavers and not washing your hands would cause you to transfer the germ from the cadaver back to the mothers, as they were working with the mothers, and they were infecting the mothers. And the moral of the story is that sometimes as leaders, and oftentimes as leaders even, we sometimes think the issue's out there, but really the issue's in here. It's what we're bringing that is actually causing the problem. And so what we're solving for is not out there. I don't believe that there's anything wrong with our students. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with the adults in the system, but I do think that there's an opportunity for us to work together with more effective processes and practices and protocols to be more effective as a system. Sort of interesting, in a later study called the invisible gorilla. And some of you may have seen this. It's a video that's out there, and it has two teams of people. 5 are in black shirts and black pants, and the other 5 in white shirts and white pants. And they're passing a basketball. The one team in the black shirts is passing a basketball from one team member to the next, and the team in the white shirts is defending them, so to speak. And the study is interesting, not because they're passing a basketball, but because the study asked participants to watch it and watch it for 30 to 45 seconds and see if you see anything unusual going on. And so I participated in this I think I watched the video around 2000. And I watched the video, and at the end of it, they said, "Did you see anything unusual?" I didn't see anything, and about half of the people in the room didn't see anything. The other half of the people in the room said, "No, you didn't see the gorilla that came through?" If you haven't seen this video, you should watch it fast. I've ruined it for you at this point if you haven't seen it. So that effect is lost, but it's fascinating nonetheless. And this study has been duplicated again and again and again. And what they found is that we are sometimes blind to the obvious. And not only are we sometimes blind to the obvious, but we're sometimes blind to our blindness of the obvious. And so there are times at which something can be going on and we not realize it's going on, and other people see it, but we can't see it. And so this 90-day plan is not an indictment of the people who are in the system. It is about us uncovering something that perhaps was there, but for whatever reason, maybe we haven't seen it quite yet. So what are we building towards? I'd like to suggest to you that we're building towards gaining increased trust. Gaining increased trust. It's kind of interesting. Trust is one of those commodities that's very difficult to earn, but it's easy to lose. Respect and trust are built on difficult grounds, but they can be lost in a moment. Anybody that's been in a relationship where trust was lost, whether personal or professional, knows that a low and no trust will turn an inquiry into an interrogation. And it will cause there to be a lack of trust and a lack of confidence that what is being shared is actually all there is to be shared. And so trust affects everything that we do. In this book, The Speed of Trust, he talks about 5 waves of trust. And I love the analogy of a wave, because the thing is, if you have trust, you can ride the wave, but if you don't have trust, the wave can crush you. And when we think about it, strategy and execution will lead to results, but trust is a multiplier there. And if you have trust, it will accelerate your strategy and your execution, and execution is just the discipline of getting things done. But if you don't have trust, no matter how great your strategy and your execution may be, your results will be exponentially impacted, and usually not for the best. So what are the waves? There's a wave that we call personal trust, and personal trust is all about credibility. And I've told the team that I'm committed to be a credible leader and a credible person. What does credibility mean? Credibility means that you have character and competence. Character is what you're like when no one else is around. What I discovered is that anybody can be a sage on the stage and look like there's something when there's a lot of bling, but what's behind the bling? I'd like to suggest to you that behind the bling, there should be something. And character is one of those things that says that I'm going to be consistent in who I am, whether I'm at home, whether I'm at Kroger, whether I'm at Columbia Mall, or whether I'm at Richland One District. It says that I'm going to be consistent in who I am and in my expectations of you as Richland One District employees. It says to the community that I'm committed to being consistent in who I am as it relates to working with you and building relationship. But I also believe in competence. Character isn't enough. And so I spent a career working to ensure that I'm not just talking about something. I don't believe in MSU, which is making stuff up. I believe that you got to know what you're talking about. And so I've had experience from the cradle to career, college, and military readiness. And I believe that we have a team that has rich experience and that we can leverage that. The next wave is a wave of relationship, and relationship is all about our behaviors. And here's the thing. We can't talk ourselves out of something that we behaved our way into. And so behaviors say to us that we have to not only talk the talk, but we have to walk the walk. And when we say that we're going to do something, we need to be committed to do it. And if we can't do it, we need to say why we can't do it. Building trust in this way is all about clarifying expectations. And so there are going to be times when we can't do things for a variety of reasons. But we need to be clear about why we can't do it and be consistent with that across all of the people that we're dealing with. It can't be this set of rules for some and another set of rules for others. And then there's also organizational trust. So once we move past personal and relational trust into organizational trust is built on what I call integration. It means that you have to not only have alignment. Alignment is a necessary but insufficient condition for effectiveness and excellence. Alignment says that the wheels on the car are facing in the right direction, but imagine a scenario where the wheels on the car are aligned, but they're not connected appropriately to the steering column. Imagine the sort of disaster that would ensue if you tried to turn the wheel this way and the wheels kept going this way, even though aligned. And so we have to have the right people on the right seats in the bus, but we also have to have them talking about the right things in the right way at the right time. And that is how you build integration throughout a system. No one can see everything. So cross-team collaboration becomes critical as it relates to integration. After organizational trust, we move into what we call market trust. And market trust is all about reputation. It's what we call brand identity. There was a book out years ago called Brand Leadership by David Acker, and he talks about the importance not only of brand making, but brand leadership. And brand leadership is all about thinking through what the brand associations are and what the brand identity is associated with Richland One. What do people think about when they think about our district? And the way that we can build a brand that's been maybe tarnished is by making sure that we're being consistent in our results, we're being consistent in our approaches, and we're being consistent in how we behave and act towards others. I don't believe that we're judged on things we can't control. I think people judge us more on things that we can control. I shared this with a group earlier in our convocation. When we sent our kids to school, and our kids went to public and some private school, we sent the best kids that we had. We weren't holding some better kids back at home. And I imagine that you sent the best kids that you had, and the community is sending their best. I don't think people judge us on the way that kids come to us. I think they judge us on what we do when they come to us. And that is something that we can certainly do something about. And last, after market trust, there's societal trust. And societal trust is all about contribution. I've had an opportunity to meet people from a variety of places across the system. And what I've discovered is that Richland One has a rich history of building and releasing contributors. But I like the movie Remember the Titans, where the coach tells them, hey, leave no doubt. And I think we got to leave no doubt in the mind of the community of what Richland One has contributed to Columbia, South Carolina, the nation, and the world. I think we got to leave no doubt. In the minds of people that we are the leaders in releasing folks into arts and entertainment and into business and into congregation and community service, into the direct media, into education, into family and government spaces. I believe that we can lead in that work, but we have to lead through trust. So what is our deliverable? What are we building towards? We're building towards a vision that we will share, and I call this vision Richland One 2030. And it's a 5-year vision that we will build towards. And I believe that vision is a comprehensive and detailed plan that includes everyone. Vision is a comprehensive and detailed picture of the future that includes everyone. What do I mean by comprehensive and detailed? I'd like to do a quick thought experiment with those who are here, and if you're watching via live stream, you can participate as well. I want you to think in your mind about a fish. What do you say? A fish. F-I-S-H. Now show me with your hands how big your fish is. Show me. Okay, some of y'all got Jaws, some of y'all got Nemo, some people got a salmon. Y'all all over the place. Wasn't I clear? I said think about a fish. See, when you're comprehensive and detailed, you have to make sure that you're clear enough so that there's no inconsistency between what you mean to say and what people understand you to be saying. It's the same thing of the image here where there's a man that's fishing, and this particular man is using a net approach to fishing. But look, you can use a hook, line, and sinker to go fishing. You can also use, I've been told, explosive devices to go fishing. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could do it. There are multiple ways to fish. You can use a spear and go fishing. So when we say we're going to go fishing, Richland One community, that's not enough. We have to be clear in our vision to say, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And we have to be very clear about what we mean when we say that. And that's why the vision will be comprehensive and detailed. And you will see a draft of that in January. We have to be clear about what the picture of the future is that we're talking about. There are two books that I love. One is Playing to Win. It's more a corporate book. The other one is a public book that deals with public school systems. And it's called Coherence, the Right Drivers and Actions in School Systems. But both of them talk about the importance of being really, really clear about where it is that you're going. And so if we're clear about where we're going, we have an integrated set of choices that everyone understands why they're doing, how they're doing it, and what to do. They understand the what, the how, and the why. And when we can create that sort of clarity, we're winning. If I say to us, let's take a trip, we're going to go to California. Some of us might end up in San Francisco. Some of us might end up in LA. Some of us might end up in San Diego. So we have to be very explicit about where we're going. If I say we're going to take a trip to Alaska, some of us might take a car. Some of us might take a boat. Some of us might take a plane. I wouldn't suggest taking a car. It's going to be a long trip. But the reality is we are one organization going to one place, and we can't take a car and a plane at the same time. We can't take a boat and a car at the same time. We have to be in one vehicle, and that vehicle is called our culture. And culture is just the way that we do things around here. So the vision will be explicit about what we do, how we treat each other, how we talk to each other, how we interact, and what the expectations are for how it is that we engage with one another as a system. See, the vision needs to also include everyone. Because everyone has a unique perspective, but not all of us see everything. I discovered everything I know I've been taught, but I've not been taught everything. And I have a unique perspective based off of the seat that I sit in, but it doesn't include everything that can be known. And so it's important when we are thinking about a vision that there are multiple stakeholders that are involved in that vision. Because we might have the right picture, but it might be incomplete. These scientists here that are looking at this elephant, one says it's a sphere, it's a trunk, they're not necessarily wrong. It's just that they have an incomplete picture. But what if they spend some time talking to each other and getting clear about each other and getting clear about how their piece connects to the piece that's next to the other one? Then they might be able to say, oh, we're dealing with an elephant. So we have to be collective and inclusive in how we're thinking about the vision. We can't leave out people in the vision. We need to make sure that everyone can see themselves clearly. And so what do we do as we approach this process? We have to have a very clear leadership system. Everything is part of something else. And leadership has to cascade as a process of integration and inspection. I believe in involvement. Involvement means that people will be committed. No involvement, no commitment, no ownership. And so we have to involve the people who are doing the work in the process of planning the work. And so this is a collective endeavor to include not only our internal stakeholders, our staff, but also the external community. And so we're going to be asking you to be involved in this process because everything in an effective system should be connected to everything else. No matter what I do in the system, I should see how my part connects to the next part. Whether I'm a secretary answering the phone or I'm a bus driver, who's the first person that a lot of our students see. Or I might be a cafeteria worker. All of those roles are critical to success, not just the superintendent, not just principals and teachers, although those roles are very important. But every role is important. There's also a role for external stakeholders. There's a role for law enforcement. There's a role for our community and recreation centers. There's a role for our officials that are out there, our elected officials. There's a role for everyone to play in empowering kids in a significant way. And if we play that role in a collective way, we can have success that we haven't seen before. So our 90-day focus is around process. And I believe in doing an autopsy without blame. It's kind of interesting. Edward Demings, who's considered the father of business management, has this rule that he created and has been validated over years. And the rule simply says this, that 85% of the issues in an organization are not people issues, they're process issues. And that we are more effective when we focus on processes instead of people. And it doesn't mean that we don't have to also focus on people. It just means that the emphasis should be on processes versus people. You see, we have to ensure that follow through is constant and that we are very clear about who does what by when. We have to have clarity around roles and responsibilities. And this is what this model shares with us, that we are less effective when we focus on people, personalities, and politics. The most effective emphasis for us should be on processes, roles, goals, and responsibilities. Now, I am not saying that we shouldn't be worried about people, personalities, and politics, but politics without process will lead to a situation that gets us into some dangerous spaces because it will cause us to not focus on the needs of people. We call that populism. And popularity shouldn't drive our decision-making. Our decision-making should be driven by what's in the best interest of our students. So my primary objective is to conduct a comprehensive assessment of Richland One's operational, instructional, and financial systems. The plan that I will be sharing with you reflects my commitment to academic performance and also addressing some of the serious financial concerns that we are currently engaged in. I don't believe that you can solve an issue by looking away from it. You have to deal with issues as they are, and it takes appropriate diagnosis to have an appropriate prescription. And so the core principles to this process are that we are going to listen, we are going to then assess, and we are going to plan. And I think the first step is listening. We have to seek to understand before we seek to be understood. And so I'm going to be going out to the community to understand the issues that we are currently facing. And we have some initial assessments that have already been done. So we have some goals. I'll talk to you about those quickly. To establish productive and working relationships with the school board of commissioners, to create an accurate understanding of the district's academic performance and implement immediate support where needed, to address some of the concerns around our fiscal caution status. I talked about this a little bit earlier, the importance of building trust through transparent communication and thinking about what our challenges are and what our improvement plans can be, assessing organizational structure, and establishing a foundation for a comprehensive strategic plan. And we'll talk about that a little bit here through the remainder of the presentation. And so we're going to be looking at our educational options and programs, the quality of our teachers and our staff and how we support them, what our teacher retention is, and what our teacher support practices are. And so these are strengths that were identified in our BWP and Associates assessment. This was done as part of the superintendent search. And so you identified educational options and programs. You identified quality teachers and staff as strengths. You also identified in this process supportive community and availability of resources, that the district has resources. It's not like this everywhere. But there were also some, what I call opportunities. We could also frame those as challenges. Recruitment and retention was a challenge that community folks named when we were looking at the superintendent search. So that's something that's at the front of my mind. Funding came up, but in a different way. People acknowledged that we have resources, but there was concern about how those resources are being used. And so transparency is going to be critical for us moving forward to ensure that we've addressed that. There was also concern around facilities, curriculum, and instruction related to school safety. These were things that you all raised as part of our superintendent search process. So they will become a framework for how we think about this 90-day plan. So phase one, we're going to have board engagement. This has really already begun, but this is our official launch date. Board engagement, senior leadership assessment, school visits, financial assessment, and community engagement. And so this will be an intense process that is about collecting information. We're not making decisions, we're collecting information. It's appreciation of what the issue is before we try to solve the issue. In weeks 5 through 8, we'll be doing a deeper assessment around academics, finances, organizational assessment, as well as stakeholder collaboration. What is the current state of our stakeholder relationships? We also be then moving into weeks 9 through 12, looking at our improvement planning around academics, finance, strategic planning, and communication and reporting. And so you should see a theme here. We're going to be consistently looking at our academic platform, our business and operations platform to include finance and HR, our communications platform, and our overall district-wide effectiveness. I call it the ABCD of our plan. That will be a consistent theme throughout. And it will also be a consistent theme that we are going to be appreciating before we're trying to collaborate. And so the depth and breadth of appreciation will determine the strength and the effectiveness and the longevity of collaboration. If we don't spend enough time appreciating how we got to the place where we got in, and we try to solve something that we haven't fully understood, we'll find ourselves back in a place of confusion pretty quickly. We have to make sure that we take enough time to understand what were all the factors that led to this pain point. And how did we find ourselves here? This is one of the principles of any recovery process. You first have to understand how you got to the place that you are in before you can effectively figure out how to get to the next space. And sometimes we try to preempt the process because we just want to get past whatever the issue was, but we have to spend enough time really understanding the issue to effectively move forward. And this is what we will be doing as part of our 90-day assessment and plan. Our deliverables that will be coming, our community assessment report, financial report, and academic improvement framework. All of these things will be part of what I report out to the board and to the larger community after this 90-day assessment, and I'll give you a timeline of that here in the next few slides. We'll also be looking at organizational structures. Do we need structural changes? And again, we're not making those changes right now. We're just assessing our current state as it relates to organizational structures. Our strategic planning framework. We'll be looking at our strategic plan and looking at what are the needs that are urgent, first-year priorities, because some things need to be done right now. And so we'll be identifying in this first 90 days those things that have to be done right away. And there are already a few things that we have been able to surface. So what's the cadence of our deliverables? I'm glad that you asked. In December, we're going to share out with the broader community as well as the board our 90-day findings. And so that will be an opportunity for us to say, look, we've gone out, we've listened, we've been intentional about asking questions about how we can improve and about what's going well, what we need to continue to celebrate and scale, and what we need to think about doing differently. And this is what we found. So that will be a sharing out. And my commitment to the community is that I will be very clear about what those things are. We're not going to dance around issues. If there was an issue, then we will say what the issue was. And I believe that you have to own the issue, and then once you own it, you can move past it. But we can't make excuses for the issue. I said this quote that I like and that I've heard multiple times during the convocation, and it says simply this, that excuses are tools of incompetence used to build mountains of nothingness, and those that use them seldom accomplish the task. You say, Dr. Walker was hard on us. It's not my quote, but I like the quote. And it's not to say that we can't have explanations, because I think we should have explanations. But an explanation is not a response, and it certainly is not responsiveness. We have to provide an explanation and then have a response to how we're going to improve and be very clear about the steps that we're going to take and be accountable for how we're going to take those steps. What are you saying? I'm saying that we have to say what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to do it and then say what we did. And then we're going to have to say what we're going to do again, do it, and then say what we did. That's the process that we will utilize to begin to build back trust. In January, we will then share out our vision in a draft form. There will be 30 days where the community will have an opportunity to provide feedback on that vision. And so the vision will be formed and informed based off of all of our 90-day findings. It's leader initiated, but it requires feedback from everyone. And so the community and stakeholders will have an opportunity to read that plan, that vision, and to provide us feedback on that vision. And after those 30 days, we'll come back to you in February with our State of the District, where we will share out that vision in its working final form. And I say working final form because it's never quite ever finalized, but it will be in a working final form. And then we will also talk about our process moving beyond February into our strategic planning. And so strategic planning just means that everything in the system should be aligned and integrated. And so the objectives that we have should be tied to strategic outputs and to strategic activities that everyone in the system is engaged in. And all stakeholders should understand how what they're doing connects to the ultimate goal or priority that is identified and associated with it. And so what will our measures of success be? We'll develop a productive and working relationship with the school board. And I think that we're on a path to that. And I believe that you have to treat people with parity. It's important to me that every board member knows that they have equal voice as I am seeking to lead this district in an effective way. I'm not preferring some over others. Everyone's voice matters and is important to informing the process. We'll need to have a clear understanding of the district's academic and financial challenges. We've had some significant success academically, and we've had some success financially. But there's been some missteps as well. And as I shared with you, trust is hard to be earned, but it's easily lost. And when you have just a few things that don't seem quite right, it casts a shadow on everything. So we gotta need to work very hard to make sure that we're cleaning up the little things and that we're being transparent. But I'm also not gonna ask people to be beat up on. We're gonna own it. We're gonna have a process to move forward, but we're not gonna allow ourselves to just get beat up on for things that we've already corrected or things that we're working to correct. We'll have a credible financial plan for recovery, and we already have the beginnings of many of those pieces. We have an executive leadership team that I'm very proud of, the work that they've done. So thank you, team, for the work that you've been doing. Very, very effective team. But we're going to work to become even more effective. We're going to have a foundation for sustained academic improvement. And so we have a great team of academicians and academic leaders, and I've added to them a deputy superintendent to help to integrate that work. And I'm confident that our scores will continue to rise, and we will have one of the greatest academic years and years to come of any district in this state. Watch us rise. Watch us rise. What are our other measures of success? A roadmap for addressing achievement gaps. We have to be aware of that. And I believe more than achievement gaps, it's really about opportunity gaps. And we want to make sure that all students have opportunity and access. Clear metrics for accountability systems. Enhanced financial controls where needed. We'll look at that. Alignment of resources with district priorities. And so we'll make sure, as we clarify what the priorities are, that we're thinking about are the way that we're spending our money aligned to those priorities, because we can't do everything right now. And so we'll have to think about, if we have a finite amount of resources, how do we spend those resources in a way that is most effective? And that will be part of our assessment of success. Improve transparency with stakeholders. And so again, we're committed to being transparent about places where we've fallen short. And we have to be clear about that, but we also have to be clear that this is how we're moving forward, and clear to ask people to give us an opportunity to show that we've made progress. The entry plan that I've shared with you reflects my commitment to the critical challenges that we're facing, to address them in both the short and the long term. But it also means that we'll need to establish the conditions necessary for transformational change and for transformative change. Transformation is this work, because it means that you can no longer do things the way that you did them before. And I've shared with folks on multiple occasions, nobody really likes change but a wet baby. The reality is, and there's probably some exceptions to that in general, but we don't like change. But people will change if they understand the reason for the change and they're clear about what their role in the change process is. So you can read about this plan at richlandone.org/90-day plan. We're sharing it there in detail, and we're going to also share out the plan to the media outlets that are both here today and those who may be viewing, and to the general public. We want everyone to be able to have access to the plan and be able to see what it is that we're doing. And then I have a few acknowledgments that I want to thank these folks and who are on the list of folks here, as well as the organizations. This work cannot be done alone. And so again, thank you to the commissioners and to our executive team and to the host of folks that are represented on this list. Some are part of organizations, some have been informally part of the process or will be a part of the process. And these folks are going to be folks that are going to be coming in to help us get clear about what our blind spots might be. Because again, as I said, sometimes it's not that we're trying to miss something, it just might be a blind spot for us. And so we need sometimes folks to come alongside us and say, hey, have you considered this? Have you thought about this? Sometimes it's not that we need to do something different or we need to work harder. sometimes we just need to ask the next question. Sometimes we need to ask a different question. And asking questions is part of building processes into an organization. So our process of creating systems, structures, and practices will help us to do that. Lastly, and I want you to pull out your cell phone for this part, and those who are online, pull out your cell phones. This is the fun part, y'all. Where in the district is Dr. Walker? You get to decide where I'm going to go. If you want me to be at Lowe's, I'll come to Lowe's next to the washer and dryer. If you want me to go to the barber shop, I'll go there. I don't need the services, but I'll go. I'll go to the hair salon. I'll go to the fish fry. I'll come out to churches. I've already visited several churches. You know, we'll be creative about where we're going to meet people. Some will be more informal venues. Some will be more formal venues. Some will be venues that are in our school district, school buildings like this at C.A. Johnson. And I want to just end by thanking the staff of C.A. Johnson. This is a historic site and a historic building. Thank you to the principal, young man with a very sharp bow tie on over there. He said they gave it to him when he took on the principalship. I get it. So, but thank you for sharing your space with us. Don't take it for granted. I know the amount of work. I was a principal for 10 years, so I know the amount of work that it takes to prepare for and pull off events like this. You're going to have an opportunity to meet with me and to talk with me after this presentation. Immediately after, we're going to have some opportunity to meet and greet out in the foyer, as they call it, outside, okay? And so this won't be the end of our time to connect. But again, I thank you for your time and attention. I believe that we have our board chair that's going to come back up. Thank you so much. We're rising together. We're moving forward together. Thank you.
Told y'all. Thank you, Dr. Walker. That was awesome. I just wanted to make a couple of quick announcements before we go out there and spend some time with him. And I'll need Commissioner Devine if you can help. If there are any local elected officials in here, please, could you stand up? I will not be able to see you, but Commissioner Devine will let me know. We good? There we go. Now we got people walking out, and I can't tell if they're elected officials or not. And let me say this, I wanted to make sure if there were any folks here that we acknowledge them. I know that a number of them are at various conferences and other places they got to be and couldn't make it here tonight, but they are paying attention. And I wanted to also get up here and echo what Dr. Walker finished with. We are 4 days away from many students showing up early Monday morning, and yet the staff at C.A. Johnson and the custodial staff have gotten this space ready for us tonight, so I really want to thank them for that. And with that, I will get out of your way so you can go talk to Dr. Walker. Thank y'all so much for being here.